Hi, everyone. I'm Amori Amin, and welcome back to the Inner Eyes. Thank you so much again for joining this journey as we go down the yellow brick road. There comes a moment on every journey when the thing you've been avoiding can no longer be avoided, not because it suddenly appeared, but because it has been there all along, watching, waiting, influencing, whispering, and now it's time to face it. Throughout Dorothy's journey, there have been many obstacles: the Kalidas, the subway monsters, the poppy fields, the flying monkeys, the threats, the warnings, the fears. And it would be easy to see these as separate challenges, separate enemies, separate events. But what if they weren't? What if every challenge on the yellow brick road was preparing Dorothy for one final confrontation? Because every trap they encountered had the same purpose: to stop them from moving forward. And that's exactly how fear works. Fear doesn't always destroy you, sometimes it simply convinces you not to continue. One of the most fascinating things about the Witch of the West is that her influence is felt long before Dorothy stands before her. She watches from a distance. In the original film, she appears in smoke and crystal visions. In The Wiz, Eveline watches from her factory throne. In the book, she sends obstacle after obstacle against the travelers. She's always present, even when she's not visible. And isn't this how fear operates? Long before we consciously confront it, it's already influencing our choices. It whispers, don't try, don't speak, don't risk it, don't trust yourself. Stay where you are, remain who you've always been. The shadow rarely announces itself, it whispers. So when Dorothy and her companions are sent to confront the witch doesn't immediately attack them herself. Instead, she sends others. In the book, wolves, crows, bees, the Winkies, and finally the flying monkeys. In the film, the flying monkeys become her most feared weapon. In The Wiz, they become a terrifying motorcycle gang sweeping through the city. And this matters because the monkeys are not the witch, they serve the witch, just as fear often sends messengers before it arrives itself. Self doubt, anxiety, shame, old wounds, the memory of failure, the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" The voice that says, "You are not ready." The voice that says, "You're going to fail." These are the flying monkeys on the mind. They do the bidding of fear. Then comes one of the most iconic moments in all of Oz. The sky darkens, and written among the clouds are the words, "Surrender, Dorothy." On the surface, it's a threat. The witch wants Dorothy. The witch wants the slippers. The witch wants power. But spiritually, I believe there's another layer because every transformation requires surrender. Not surrender to fear, surrendering to becoming, surrender to change, surrender to the journey itself. The old self cannot travel where the new self is going. Something must be released, something must be surrendered. And that is uncomfortable because surrender often feels like losing control, when in truth, it's the beginning of trust. Eventually, Dorothy is captured and brought to the witch's castle. Most people see the castle as a prison, but spiritually, it may represent something different. The castle is where avoidance ends. No more running, no more distractions, no more yellow brick road. Just Dorothy in the thing that she's been not trying to face, which is fear, the shadow, the belief that she is powerless, because every spiritual journey eventually arrives here, at the place where you must confront what has been controlling you, not what threatens you, what controls you. And there's a difference. And then something beautiful happens. The companions come back. The scarecrow, the tin man, the lion, they return from Dorothy. They could have escaped, they could have saved themselves, but they don't. And this moment reveals something extraordinary. Everything they believed they lacked, they're now demonstrating. The scarecrow becomes strategic. The same scarecrow who thought he had no brain becomes the master of strategy. The Tin Man becomes fiercely devoted. That same Tin Man who thought he had no heart. The lion becomes fearless in action. That same lion who believed he had no courage. And that is the hidden miracle of Oz. The journey already transformed them before the wizard ever gave them anything. As Dorothy stands before the witch, the demand remains the same. Give me the slippers. Give me your power. Give me what protects you. And isn't that what fear always asks? Fear asks you to surrender your confidence. Fear asks you to surrender your voice. Fear asks you to surrender your purpose. Fear asks you to surrender yourself. And if you do, it grows stronger. Then comes that moment, one of the most famous moments in all of cinema. Dorothy throws water, and the witch begins to melt, not from a sword, not from violence, not from strength, from water. And throughout this entire journey, water has appeared again and again. Tears, emotion, healing, intuition, spirit, truth. Water softens what fear hardens. Water reveals what fear conceals. Water cleanses what fear corrupts. And perhaps that's why the witch cannot survive it, because the shadow survives in the darkness. It survives in secrecy. It survives in avoidance. It survives when it remains unseen. But it cannot survive what is fully brought to the light. It cannot survive truth. It cannot survive awareness. It cannot survive authentic feeling. The moment Dorothy throws the water, the illusion dissolves. Not because Dorothy becomes stronger, but because what was false can no longer maintain its form. And that's where I think most people misunderstand the entire story. The witch is not destroyed because Dorothy hated her. The witch is destroyed because Dorothy I'm sorry, the witch is not destroyed because Dorothy defeated her. The witch is dissolved because fear loses its authority. Fear loses its throne. And when fear is no longer ruling, something remarkable happens. Freedom becomes possible. Not freedom from challenges, not freedom from uncertainty, freedom from being controlled by fear. I don't believe the witch represents evil at all. I believe she represents fear that has been allowed to rule, fear that became identity, fear that became authority, fear that became a prison. And when Dorothy melts the witch, she is not destroying part of herself, she is reclaiming herself. She is refusing to allow fear to be her ruler. And that may be one of the most important lessons of the entire journey, because the goal is not to eliminate fear, the goal is to stop worshiping it. The goal is to stop obeying it. The goal is to stop allowing it to decide who you become. The Witch of the West was never the final enemy. The belief that fear held power was. And once the belief dissolves, everything changes. Because after fear loses its throne, what remains? Truth, freedom, wisdom, love, courage, and the realization that the thing chasing you was never as powerful as you imagined. This is the inner Oz, where the journey isn't about defeating the shadow, it's about understanding why it ruled so long. And once you stopped giving fear the throne, you finally become free. With the witch gone, the companions return to Oz expecting their rewards. What they discover next is perhaps the greatest revelation of all. The brain, the heart, the courage they sought was never missing. Thank you, and I will see you on the next episode of the journey on the yellow brick road.